Hello people, I'm Jaby Koay. Joining us is Mayuri Bandari. Welcome back. We're gonna watch AIB podcast featuring RANBIR Kapoor Part 2. Here we go.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from All India Bakchod.
I love this opening. It's so funny to me. What does that mean, Bakchod?
Buck is like just somebody who talks a lot.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
You were also supposed to do the Kishore Kumar biopic. Is that happening?
It was happening, but there's one character's family or one person's family didn't allow us to use that person, and that was the main conflict of Kishore Kumar's life. So I hope it happens. You know, doing biopic is very tricky because even when you're doing the Sanjay Dutt biopic, there were so many people's families who called, "Hamare bare mein mat likhna," you know, about his certain ex-girlfriend or certain wife. You can't use all that unless you have permission. So it's tricky to make biopic.
Could you try changing it like FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer? Like
That's
Messi ka Moosa Raza.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, can't you change the name? Like, just change the name.
Lag jayega, obviously. But
Which actor have you met and that you immensely talking about that? Which actor have you met that you've fanboyed immensely? क्या दिनेरो के पैर पे पड़ा था? What was that photo that you?
yeah, that was.
I was having the shit out of that.
My favorite picture of that one is the Kunal Kohli.
What is that? What is that?
Never mind. What is this Kunal Kohli photo?
I went to Australia और वहाँ पे कोआला के साथ फोटो खिंचाते हैं ना, तो कोआला के साथ मैं ऐसे खड़ा हूँ. कोआला doesn't give a fuck about me, okay? तो मैं बस ऐसे खड़ा हूँ. Same photo. Reno sitting like this, Kunal Kohli.
What was that? Where was the Dinero thing?
It was at Anupam Kher's school. So he invited few actors and but to be honest, who wasn't like, I mean the embarrassing moments weren't photographed, but who was as equally or more embarrassing than me was Anil Kapoor. Like you have no idea what Anil Uncle was doing also. Anil Uncle was pushing people and all, you know, like Varun is coming on, I'm coming, he's kicking and all. And he's like sitting like this and Jaldi photo khich.
Anil Kapoor's the character.
We all were like just at our worst.
Yeah, but
And he was actually feeling like that koala bear because he was wondering what is happening. He wasn't saying anything. He didn't give a rat's ass who we were. You know, we were asking about taxi driver, about, you know, these intelligent questions. Everyone had some trivia to, you know, ask him about and all. And all he did was, and he just looked the other way. All he did.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Robert De Niro is not so great anymore.
But it's okay. IFA में लूंगी डांस तो कर लेंगे.
end में हमारे level पे ले आएंगे.
You know, like,
What
the
about
dance.
IFA? Like I love IFA
Did
because I
it's
would say
this
कि कौन
dance
से
from
Hollywood
the
actor को
Chennai
अपने
Express
level
that they
पे
did
दिया
at
है.
the awards. And now they make all the American actors do this funny dance. They've been doing it on TV shows
Martin
and stuff.
Scorsese को बुला के best Manikchand scene of the year award.
Yeah, you talking to me?
Best Jodi. For Jake Gyllenhaal and Emma Stone.
International style icon.
Yeah.
That's a word I don't understand. What is international style icon? I have one couple of those babies now.
My personal favorite, I think, I don't remember which award show, but there was one where Amitabh Bachchan previous year उसको lifetime achievement मिला था, but you have to invite him this year also. So it's like now how?
Star of the Millennium.
Son of a Millennium.
Millennium. Straight.
My favorite. Salman got one for best social media. With Sohail came to take good. Salman like, क्या social media? Do you give a shit about awards though? Is it like a thing like you want?
I mean, I used to, go crazy, you know, when I was winning Best Actor awards and all. It's kind of cool. But then when you stop winning, then you don't give a shit about it. When you're winning, you don't give a shit about it, you know.
What does that feel like then? Because it's sort of, and again, not to go back to the cliched questions like you said about,
And
you
know
had your
winning
3-4.
if Rekha ji calls you a day before.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that a thing?
See, the thing is like that day,
Because of
when I was
very
dressed as a
famous
girl,
classical actress.
when I won Critics Best Actor, and then our act was over because the last 4 main awards was hosted by Karan Johar. And so me and Shahrukh sir were backstage and I was getting ready to go back home because I thought, chalo, mera award ho gaya. They gave me Critics Best Actor. So when they called me back and said, no, you could be winning this award and all, then that excitement was amazing, you know, to go back and also win the Best Popular Actor award. Then next year when I won for Barfi, and when I got the award, which was at around 2:30 at night, there was nobody in the audience. There were like 5 people sitting there.
So late.
You know, and then that really, got to be like, people don't really respect this, you know. There is no kind of respectability in
I don't know if people don't respect or not, but I think there's a point at about 2:30 in the morning where people are, how much do I respect?
That is true.
Because I'll still never forget that the one that you and Shahrukh hosted. Where
And
I
Javed
remember-
Uncle and Shabana Auntie were abusing us on stage.
Yeah, and I
Arey
remember
hatao in log ko yaar.
Bonnie Kapoor came to give the last award, and I still remembers, one of the most snarky things that announcers say, he's like, good evening, lekin ab to good morning bolna chahiye. Like he just says this openly. And I'm like, ooh.
You dance at award shows, no? You've done all that.
Yeah. I haven't danced in weddings, but I have danced in award shows. I enjoy hosting because when we work together, and I've only worked with you guys, it's fun, you know. Then it's you're doing something, you know, it's fun. But I think dancing is a little boring for me on award shows.
Now in a new house, you moved out of the house finally. So do you have the same problem as ki bai nahi aa rahi hai time pe?
Society
My cook left depot yesterday for a month. I don't have anybody to make a meal at night, so my mom is sending me dabba service from her house. But it's great, you know. I have a good system at home. I have 2 people who work for me. I have 2 dogs, an English Mastiff, a French Mastiff, and it's like having 2 grandparents living at home because it's a lot of work, you know, to take care of them, their walks, their food. They're always falling sick. I don't think it's the best breed to have in this country, but I got gifted the dogs, so I really have to take care of them. But it's great, yeah. You know, I do nothing. I made myself a nice cinema room. I'm watching movies. I'm chilling. People don't believe this about me, but 90% of time I don't have a thought in my head. Like even when I'm sitting on set or I'm sitting at home, I'm a blank person. Without that also.
It's so fucking juvenile of me, right? That's so juvenile.
I was wondering who was going to do it. Yeah. You did not disappoint.
In my head, I was like,
Do you know how much trouble
What was the
I
right
fell into?
moment to
Because
jump in?
I remember I did a GQ interview on my first day out, and I spoke about like smoking pot in school, and you know, I was a big pot smoker.
Got you in trouble?
Like lawyers were calling my dad and all, he can't speak like that in this country, and you know, he's going to go to jail.
So the lawyers then call you कि क्या बाप क्या tweet कर रहा है तुम दोनों क्या करते हो यार घर पे
Please, Papa का phone ले लो.
Wow, my dad's tweets, man. What do I say
Gotta
about
see
it?
his tweets now.
Yeah, my mom.
What is the answer that you've uttered now as part of the template that you made on Dad's tweets?
There is a template, but let me not say the template. The thing is, what I feel about his tweets is that A, he's extremely honest. He's exactly like you actually. You know what you feel. There is always like some humor disguised, which is a bit layered, so people don't get it. He's also very passionate about certain things like politics or like anything topical thing that's happening, and he says it. I, on the other hand, I'm quite opposite of him. You know, I'm quite a hypocrite. If they ask me to talk about any political thing or anything controversial, I'll give the most hypocritical answer just to kind of you know, well left kind of a way. So now, how do I criticize him for it? I mean, he falls into trouble.
He's right to say.
Yeah, I mean,
every Punjabi uncle, it's so cool. Every Punjabi uncle is doing it.
Yeah, so my mom is giving him a hard time, you know, and really giving him a hard time. Like he really has to go and sleep in the sitting room, kind of a hard time.
बोतल निकाल दो ना room से. That's the easiest to fix this.
Even without the bottle also he's like this, you know.
Yeah, he's actually very.
But Twitter's like that, right? Once you start, because I mean, it doesn't matter even if you're Rishi Kapoor. I'm guessing retweets are addictive. It's still retweets.
It's crazy.
Have you been pitched any web series type thingies? Because we're writing one for Amazon Prime. I'm just gonna slide that.
So it's a nice endorsement.
No, I've already asked him. We won't do anything on the web, right?
Damn it.
At least 2-3 और flop show चाहिए.
Oh my god.
2-3 और
बस नहीं दत्त गई तो मैं आ रहा हूँ. दत्त गई तो मैं आ रहा हूँ.
बेशरम to Calcutta Velvet.
ready रखते हैं.
Kolkata Velvet.
Do you know how much money you have?
No.
You don't know how much.
I have enough. I know I have enough for like even if I have Kolkata Velvet or Besharam too, I'm fine.
You're okay.
I'm okay.
But you don't look at your money.
I don't. I'm not too fond of material things. Like earlier on, to buy a sports car and all is great, but right now I don't care. You know, I don't want a sports car. I don't want a plane. You know, as long as I get to
you have a football team, Ranbir.
Yeah.
Like your own football team.
Do you call them in like kicker?
I got to point out, okay, 2 things here. Shahrukh not invited us to play FIFA. Ranbir never invited to football game. I'm sensing a pattern, guys. I'm sensing a pattern.
But you guys never mentioned that I was there that day when you spoke about this FIFA thing, which
Yeah, you were there.
We were drinking in his house till 7 in the morning when we clicked that picture with Terminator.
Yes, we did. With the Terminator. We did.
And it was so much fun because those 3 nights we just sat and we heard his stories. And
I have to say, Ranbir becomes very subservient around.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was like that was the first time I saw that dynamic of senior star and junior star. Because you see Ranbir right now, like, oh guys, let's talk about masturbation. This, that. When Shahrukh is drinking, Ranbir little like, sir, drink. Sir, drink.
And he's messaging us after the Shahrukh podcast. Oh, you guys were so nice to Shahrukh. Fuck, have you seen yourself around Shahrukh? It's like you forget you have a Kapoor surname.
I'll put a question back to work. So So if you don't want to act in web series, you want to produce with the money you have for Amazon.
It's just not my cup of tea, man.
Okay.
Seriously, tell me, what is the reach of web series though? Is it a platform which has been accepted in this country?
I'll give you an example. Okay, this is the math that I do. Right?
AIB.
The average ticket price of a movie is $200. The average sketch does 5 to 6 million comfortably. Okay, and if it's a good series, it can go up to 7-8 million.
Yeah.
So a good show
Yeah.
can be as big as a 200 crore film.
Yeah, but that usually doesn't happen. That's like saying that we have 1 billion people, so when like 3% go, you'll make so much of money. I don't think. Is there engagement like to
In
like
fact,
watch?
the engagement is
I
spectacular,
actually
right?
can
Because
measure it more.
unlike
Yeah.
film or whatever, it's such an interactive
But then,
platform.
but
that
then,
people
okay,
are-
so this whole internet thing has boomed in the last say 3-4 years. But there is no big web series in our country right now, right?
That
Which
is,
is going.
you're unaware of it.
So it is. It's there. It's in the same way that like a Bollywood has its own audience. This also has its
Hindi
own
film
audience.
industry.
But yeah, the Hindi film industry has its own audience. The Indian Hindi-English web industry also has its
That's
own
more
audience.
accurate.
See, I'll always be
They're catching them young.
I'll always be the hater of it because it's going to take away people from my theater. You know, stuff like this is because you're giving them entertainment at home, so that just doesn't give them
It's two different
something to
things.
go out and
I
watch
disagree with
movies.
that.
But I
It's two
wonder
different
Every
things.
watching experience is different.
It is
I
Yeah.
don't think
It is, but then you know
But
when
like does-
but when you make films like say a Tamasha or say it's not an event film, right? It's not the big summer movie.
not a-
it's
it's
not
not
the-
But then couldn't
can
you
see
argue
film
that
at all.
this stuff that also helps a movie like Tamasha or other non-event films by now these online platforms often give these films a second and a third and a fourth
Yes,
life.
Maybe,
yes,
maybe, yeah.
They do that,
absolutely.
right?
Especially
Which is not happening earlier.
I wonder what the data is on this. Like, but someone like say House of Cards, I'm sure it helps
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey's movies. And
Yeah.
vice
Yeah.
versa, something like that. So I'm sure there is some cross engagement, but maybe in a more developed.
Well, listen,
market
if you
like
guys are making a web series, it better be kick-ass, man, because you know you guys have the responsibility.
No
People
pressure,
follow
no
you.
pressure.
No, there is pressure, man. This is like
no pressure.
this is like Raju Irani and Amir Khan coming together.
Speaking of pressure, you are making a fantasy film.
PK.
Don't
all
fuck
those
it up.
films.
I'm just saying. Okay, we don't get a lot of opportunities to make fantasy films in this country.
Yeah.
And the formula is all there. It's you, it's Ayan,
Yeah,
it's
it's
Ale.
Let's do more.
Yeah.
Ron, what was the Sanjeeva Bansali thing that you were mentioning?
No, so that was the thing. You work with him a fair amount, and
Yeah.
he can be. I mean, difficult is the word that some people use. Eccentric is the word that some people use. What is it like in that situation, though? Do you just buckle down and go, "Okay, it's a genius. I will go with it."
That's what I did because I was an assistant on Black, and everything I knew about filmmaking or acting came from him. So he became my in the true sense my godfather. You know,
Sure.
I followed him, I looked up to him, and when we were doing Savarya, like he was God for me. You know, he was creating me, and you know, so it was like God worship, and he was playing God.
Sure.
You know, it was his assistant directors, these huge sets. It was Sanjay Leela Bansali after Hamdil, Devdas, and Black. So he was like the
Yeah,
big
he was
thing.
the guy.
But it was dark. You know, it was very dark. I mean, he really grinded us, and he really gave us a hard time. But that also kind of, I mean, I come from a sheltered background. I've never been like abused or shouted at. And yep, he was abusing me. He was hitting me. He was like
Whoa.
making me clean the floors, and so I think that experience really grounded me and it really taught me a lot.
That brings me to another question, and I promise I'm not just saying this to be controversial or whatever. A larger philosophical question about filmmaking, because Jennifer Lawrence said the same about David O. Russell, where that directing ke naam pe thappad marta tha, this, that, which brought me a philosophical question is, do we then use this concept of he's a genius or she's a genius to excuse not good behavior?
No, listen. Like I
In the
believe
sense.
that humility is an artist's greatest virtue.
Sure.
So it's something which I believe. That's of course was my first filmmaker. But if I don't like a person, if I believe that a person is not a good human being, I don't want to give myself to him.
Sure.
And especially in the field of art, you know, because you have to kind of surrender and you have to give yourself. And I wouldn't want to work with someone who is not good. Not saying that Sanjay Leela
of
Bansali
course,
is that.
sure.
But if I don't like a person, I don't want to work with him. Simple.
You mentioned in Vogue, the one you...
Yeah, you mentioned in Vogue, and that's why I bring it up, is, and this is, again, because considering you say you're super reticent, this is one of the most frank things I've ever heard an Indian actor talk about, where you're like, you know what, sometimes I think I have a drinking problem. And it just, what happened, like, sort of in the after, was that just like, I don't know, was that the hangover talking? Is that something that you do, Billy?
No.
Is
I have a
that-
drinking problem because drinking is fun.
Sure, of course. Which is why, exactly, which is true, objectively true.
And if you aren't working,
Yeah.
you know, of course, I'm in a visual medium, so I have to look good. So
Right.
I can't drink while I'm working. But because of Jagga Jasoos and the period it took, the time, there were a lot of free days. And in my free days, I realized because I'm a loner, I'm sitting at home, I drink. And then it hit me, okay, listen, you know, I have a drinking problem in my family, so I can't. I have to deal with it. Yeah.
Because there's something very positive about that. Because there's a lot of young people who are probably struggling with that and don't know that. And it's very refreshing to hear a successful person come out and go, these are my demons, I have to deal with them.
Yeah, you have to, because honestly,
That's true.
like I'm seeing in my own family, you know, there's so many health problems, so many things that they have to deal with because of drinking.
Right.
It's fun because you're young and, you know, it's fun to be high and you know, just relax and stuff, but eventually it's going to catch up, man.
Sure.
You know, you're going to age faster, you're going to get like unhealthy, you're going to get fat, you're going to look bad. And it's good to, like, you know, discover this very early in your life.
Of course it is. So how do you pull
then,
yourself back from that drink then?
I think because of the people I surround myself with, you know. Like I said, I don't have yes people, I have people who tell me, you know, how it is.
कितना है rivalry कितना होता है industry में?
Rivalry?
Rivalry होता होगा बहुत. Like you look at like basically मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि रणबीर जब kill करता है गांड जलता है कि नहीं basically.
तू कभी उसका ऐसा टायर कट किया? जल्दी ऑडिशन पहुंचने के लिए.
Starting the crowd with a blade in my hand. Of course, you know, jealousy is a very basic human emotion, and more so, actors are insecure. You know? But having said that, when I see Ranbir in Bajirao Mastani, or when I see Varun in Badrinath Ki Dulhaniya, or Sushant in Dhoni, or whatever performances stand out, you do feel a bit jealous, but also you feel inspired. Then you like go back home, कि कल तो मैं फाड़ने वाला हूँ, you know, now I have to work harder. So I think in that sense, the competition is a bit heated up. I don't wish him to do badly or somebody else to do badly.
What is the most annoying thing a journalist has ever done?
Given that we have a couple in the room.
Most annoying thing.
Annoying thing. What is this?
They've written about you which pissed you off.
No,
so
no,
much.
right.
Or just the point at which you went, this crosses a line.
I think the most annoying thing that any journalist can do is seem disinterested in your work, you know, and who seem more interested in your personal life. You know, when their tentacles stand up and answering the question of, like, was it okay dealing with your breakup, as opposed to what your character is about, like, that pisses me off.
It's always fun when you do a podcast and it's front page Bombay Times and I just get messages from friends who are journalists saying, Bencho, how the fuck did you get this out of this one? How did you get this story out? I don't know, they just want to be fun. I think what happens is when anyone around comedians feels like I should also be.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with Coffee with Karan here. Because you know him so well and he makes you so comfortable. So when you're chatting with him, you don't realize there's a billion people who are taking his word of God so seriously. And you're going to get really, you know,
I
screwed
think
about
our
it.
first understanding of that was the roast. I think where we realized that when you put a bunch of non-comedians in a room with comedians, they will work extra hard to like reach that this thing. And
Aren't you tired of Coffee with Karan?
I am. I was forced this season. I told him I don't want to come, and me and Anushka actually were going to protest and get the entire film industry together because to stop this, it's not fair because he's making money out of us. We come and we get screwed through the year. You know, and it's not right. It's
क्या
not.
होता है hamper में?
But ये
Nothing ganda you get anything. Same iPhone you're getting.
Joshi had got a hamper.
Oh yeah!
एक सेकंड एक तो मुझे हैम्पर मिला हैम्पर में आईफोन था अच्छा एंड द बेस्ट पार्ट उसके बाद मेरे दोस्त ने साइड पे लिया तेरे को गरीब लोगों का हैम्पर मिला तो तू सोच स्टार हैम्पर में क्या होगा
But you
टॉयलेट
हाँ वो भी मिला यार स्मार्ट टॉयलेट
बट ये उसके पास होगा ऑलरेडी
but Joshi did vote me as best dressed.
डैम राइट
तूने लगाया क्या वो टॉयलेट 1.5 लाख
नहीं अभी तक नहीं I'm just like this thing like because it needs an electrical connection. I'm like बॉम्बे लाइट गई तो मैं क्या करेगा?
नहीं बॉम्बे तो नहीं जाते दिल्ली में नहीं
What is it? It's like a
Doesn't
pot
go
which is
to
hot.
Bombay.
No, it's got like 7 buttons. You don't have to do anything. It's just buttons.
You don't have to shit also.
You can shit. That much you have to do. But then after that, it takes care of everything. You push a button, you can do like water temperature and shit.
Oh.
Dude, that fucking
it's quite
like
hardcore.
Japanese toilet.
हाथ की जरूरत है?
नहीं.
Seriously?
Seriously.
So there's a hand which comes?
Yeah, literally. Like
It's a
me as
person
well. Like
underneath.
so,
So clearly you didn't open your own hamper.
I didn't get this. No, we don't get this.
I'll give you mine. चल.
तो
Voucher
यूं
अभी
से
भी
got
है.
a गरीब लोग वाला hamper.
हाँ.
अमीरों को क्या मिल रहा है?
तुझे तो कुछ और मिला होगा. हाँ.
Nothing. What we get like.
Got a house. How do you need a phone? Manju Maid Agency.
This is Shakuntala. This is your hamper. FIFA खेलता है तू?
हाँ.
खेलेगा क्या साथ में?
See, the thing is that you guys bully me and you guys will probably like force yourself to my place and like cover it and put it on social media. You can't do that with Shah Rukh Khan.
Correct.
We have an idea for this.
What?
ISL promotion.
Yeah.
Season promotion.
Chalo, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Other people.
Oh,
All right. Thank you very much for doing this, Ranbir. FIFA very soon.
Actual football team.
Actual
also
football
will be
team
nice.
also will be nice.
Are you guys good in FIFA or you're just saying FIFA? Cool.
We're okay.
He's pretty good.
I'm half decent.
Okay.
What team do you play with?
Madrid.
You?
India. Tacticism. but patriotism. आजकल patriotism चल रहा है.
Really? Yeah.
Why not?
You?
United or Barca?
United. Always.
You are a fan of
Barca.
He's a
You're a Barca
Barca
Barca boy.
Yeah, whoever, if the other guy picks Madrid, you pick Barca.
Yeah,
It's
that's how it is.
pretty much the same. Alright, thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks.
All the best for Jaga Jaso and see you guys next time.
That was really cool. It was very informative and very, very chill. While in between doing the part 1 and part 2, you had mentioned Coffee with Karan or something like that.
Yeah, Coffee with Karan, yeah.
And he was very openly stating how much he didn't like
Yes.
that. Now, how
Yes,
did you
he was.
feel about that when he said that?
Well, it's kind of honest because sometimes the show might ask questions that can be very personal or
Yeah.
can light up, I guess, issues if they're being honest about answering questions. Like, oh, who do you like the best actress, or who do you like this and that, and then other people might get offended in the industry, and it just starts up. So I can see how that would be.
It's a bad ripple effect.
Yeah, and it happens so much if that guest is invited on the show and who they're invited with, and then picking up past,
Yeah.
could be anything, work, relationships, interactions with others. So that can create quite a bit of drama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting. He was very vocal about how he's like, yeah, I want to get everyone in the industry together to shut this shit down. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Like, he's really pissed about this show. I don't speak Hindi, obviously, and like, I think he said that in English, but it's like, I didn't detect any sense of sarcasm in that statement.
No, there was no sorry. You're right. Your instincts are right.
Throughout the 2 videos, I detected very little sarcasm from RANBIR Kapoor. Like, it seemed like he was just pretty forward and honest. And like,
Very relaxed.
this is how I am.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the beautiful things about AIB's podcast in general, is
Yeah,
that,
I've seen that.
they create this environment where they're like kind of giving shit, but they're also willing to take shit. It's just very fun, like you're hanging out with buddies. I just like the way they conduct their interviews more than anyone else's interviews, India or America. I think that it's so cool how they conduct their interviews. It's just a very chill kind of environment. The only thing that can make it even better is if everyone was drinking at the same time. Like,
Don't know if India's going to do that
Yeah.
just quite yet. But in fact, they're doing Coffee with Karan. That's coffee to start with.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, at
it's
some
good.
point. Like, I hope so. I think that would be a cool way to go about it. I remember I met one of my childhood heroes. He was the voice who played Solid Snake. His name was David Hayter. And when I got to hang out with him, he was drinking. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, David Hayter is drinking with me. This is nuts. Like, who the hell would have thought that? He also wrote X-Men Part 1 and 2. David Hayter's not like famous, like hugely famous, but he's pretty famous. Like, a lot of people know who he is, especially people who play video games and whatnot, they know who he is. This was a lot of fun and educational. There was obviously parts that it was just like flying over my head because there were references that I just didn't get. There were films I haven't seen yet.
Some for me too, yeah.
But I obviously saw Jaga Jasus, and I'm obviously familiar with RANBIR Kapoor, but I just wasn't familiar with the nepotism aspect of anything. But I like that he was just so chill about it and very frank about it. He seems like he's very well aware of how fortunate he is. He doesn't take that for granted.
Well, the nepotism thing has come up, especially ironically on Coffee with Karan show.
Okay.
But it came with Kangana Ranaut, one other wonderful actress, who made some comments just on, not at any specific person, but as a general issue in the industry. She comes from a very different background. Her story is quite amazing herself, but she doesn't come from any help whatsoever or any connections or networks per se. But I think he handled that beautifully in terms of he was honest. I mean, he comes from a lineage of amazing. I mean, Raj Kapoor, Prithvi Raj Kapoor, and his father, his grandfather's uncles. I mean, it's just they're legends,
Right.
and they started on their own in their time. I mean, he is going to get that platform, and he's going to use that platform.
Right.
I think it's more to the casting directors and the producers out there where there is so much talent in India. Not that you have to pull necessarily from even outside Indian Americans or lighter looking Indian females sometimes, which happens quite a bit. There's so much talent within the pool. So branch out for what else is out there and all the people that can be considered for these roles beyond just the same people getting the same, because it's not that the talent is lacking. But I think he addressed it just as is, that I come from this and I'm not going to hide it. That is an issue, and he's not going to like put it to the side like, oh, it doesn't exist. No, it does. Especially in Bollywood, it's very, very prominent.
But I think nepotism is a real thing anywhere you go.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, in the industry over here, there is nepotism. The bigger thing that I see over here is actually, oddly, is we hire a lot of outside actors a lot. So, we hire a lot of actors from Australia or from the UK and whatever, and it's kind of frustrating when the movie Get Out was a prime example where you got so many black American actors here. They went and hired some British black actor for Get Out to be the star of that film. It's kind of vexing because you have that, and then you have Asians being replaced by white actors.
Oh, that's just
all the time. So those are part of the issues we have over here, in addition to some nepotism. Like Sofia Coppola, for instance, she got her start because of her dad. Max Landis, who I got to hang out with, he got his start because his dad, John Landis, is a huge director. I can name tons and tons of people, even like Drew Barrymore. Her grandfather or father was a huge actor back in the day. There's a lot of nepotism in the industry, and that's just like, it's natural, because if the opportunity is there and if your child wants to do that, why wouldn't you help your child? It's just a natural thing.
No, and of course, and it exists everywhere, but I think particularly in Bollywood from the 50s, 60s, whatever families reigned, and it was a very closer-knit community. Like, those actors, those singers, those are the ones.
Yeah.
For X amount, there was no room for a newbie particularly to come in. Started changing in the 90s with Shah Rukh Khan. Amitabh Bachchan is another one who's not come from that lineage. Shah Rukh Khan is another one who's not come from that lineage. Now, with like Nawab Saab and all these others, there's people, but not necessarily getting that A-list top celebrity type space. It's still, it's changing. The game feels changing, but it's still very, very difficult and very close-knit and close off. And if you try to get in, sometimes people are made fun of. I mean, it can go there, but it's like, just like you said, like in anything else, but I feel like it's a different animal.
Right, they're treated like royalty in a way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They're the royalty of India, literally.
Yeah, I found it interesting when he was talking about meeting Robert De Niro and how standoffish Robert De Niro was. I wish I could see the footage on that.
It's a little picture.
Yeah, I wish I could see just the interaction that they were having to get a better understanding, because sometimes actors are like big old-time actors. Like Robert De Niro's an old-timer now. It's like he's being put in a situation where he's being asked questions like maybe he didn't understand what was going on. Like I tried to imagine all the possibilities, or maybe he was just a jerk that day. I have no idea. I haven't met the guy. It was just fascinating to hear that. Like,
yeah, it was.
Like here's this famous actor who's meeting another famous actor over here who he looks up to. It was also fun to hear him talk about meeting Shah Rukh Khan and how they were like, our American word is joshing. They were joshing him, overacting all humble around Shah Rukh Khan. He's like, all chill and whatever, I'm the man. And then till Shah Rukh Khan comes around, then he's like,
all hail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's cool. That's what, but
like
that's
a respect factor.
Yeah, but that's what I like about AIB is they're as honest as RANBIR Kapoor in the way they conduct their interview. Especially that guy on the far right. I don't know his name, with the glasses. Him in the white T-shirt. I just love his energy. The way he's just very fun. He's
very jovial.
Very jovial, and joshing him as well. I didn't know that RANBIR Kapoor owned a sports team.
So many actors owned the various cricket teams in India, but I didn't know that soccer teams were now another thing.
So explain to me this rewards thing that he's talking about, because he was like, he got his reward at 2:30 in the morning, like there were 5 people there. What's going on? Like why?
Okay, I'll tell you the joke with this. Basically what's happening is, what I'm assuming, again, take anything I say with a grain of salt, but what it was is that anything in India, obviously colored people time, okay? Everything runs really, really late.
Okay.
Now these award shows supposedly end 10, 11, 12. They'll go on till 2:30, 3, 4, 5. I mean, there's just no cutoff. So people get tired, people start leaving. And so what happens is the most important awards, unfortunately, are at the end. It's not like the Oscars, everybody's there at the on time. Yeah. So what happens is he's getting the Best Actor award close to the very end. I can't remember if it's director of film within the Filmfare, which one's the very last one. So by the time he's getting this award for this wonderful film, it's a really big, it's like, not Oscar level, but very close. I mean, it's Indian Oscar level. Yeah. And he's got 5 people in the audience to get this speech too. So everybody's gone home. Either they're tired or it's gone too late, or
I would be there.
Don't want to be there.
I would be there until like it ends. I would stay until the very end. I keep a water bottle with me so I can pee in the water bottle, and I would just stay there watching every single person that goes up. That actually used to be how the Oscars were here. It used to be that it would run over a long time, and what changed it was Titanic, because James Cameron had this moment where he's like, I'd like a minute of silence for, the victims of Titanic. The showrunner of the Academy Awards that year was like, that minute was so goddamn expensive, that 1 minute of silence. And so thereafter, they had this very serious rule of like a cutoff point after like a minute or so. Like you get this much time to have your speech, and then the music, then the music's gonna play you out. It has to be on point. That's why the Oscars are so like tight now. It used to not be that way up until like Titanic. It would just run, and people would just have these long speeches that go on forever and ever. And so now the only people that get to have that are the Best Actor, Best Actress, and Director, and Best Picture. Eventually, they're gonna rein that in. It can't just stay like that.
They will, but at least with the Bollywood industry, it's still gonna be different. It's still gonna be in its own time, and they will. I'm sure they are making adjustments, and they will continue to.
So he was very specific about Hindi film industry versus Bollywood.
As just a little play. It was just a little play on words, because Bollywood can be a very pop term. It can be not considered to be taken very seriously.
We take it seriously over here.
Oh no. That's what I call it
Yeah.
as well. It was more of a sarcastic comment, and then he said Hindi English. One of them had said that. Well, also another thing is when they were playing with the Mumbai Bombay before the British had changed all the names of the main cities, and then many years later India
No, I'm
changed
aware
them
of
back.
that. I got flack for
but
that.
the Bollywood comes from Bombay, and so it's even
Oh.
funny how but people still call it Bollywood. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But Bollywood coming from Bombay. I guess Hindi film industry is a more proper, eloquent.
Oh, I got a ton of shit for calling it Bombay instead of Mumbai. But the interesting thing is, when you're in Mumbai, people call it Bombay. They don't give a shit. It's the people outside of Bombay who have a problem with calling it Bombay. And I'm not like I'm first and foremost, I'm not from here. I don't know the political history that you guys know, so you have to be a little bit more forgiving with me. I mean, it's my ignorant ass for not knowing that stuff, and I apologize. There's a lot of things I still don't know about India in terms of the history. I know more than I did before. I called it Bombay or South Bombay or something, and a lot of people got angry at me. But then there were other people in the comments who were like, "Who gives a shit?"
Right.
Like we call it both. Like, just relax. You know, people will look for anything to get upset about. I didn't realize he was being sarcastic there. Like, I thought he was like legitimately trying to like change the way it's labeled.
No, I mean, at least from what I saw, it was just more of like a little sarcastic. But I know that a lot of them do call it the Hindi film cinema. It wasn't like I'm changing this.
Yeah.
Coffee with Karan type. No,
Right.
It wasn't that.
I have to express again that I disagree with RANBIR Kapoor's stance on the web film industry. I think that it's just a matter of not being informed. He sees it as it's going to take away from him in some way, and it's like
Yeah,
that's simply not true. It's simply not true, because you have a completely different set of people who are making this. I mean, obviously you're getting actors like Nawazuddin Siddiqui who just did a short film, and there's other actors who are doing short films. There's no other place to really show that and share that with your audience other than the web. Not everyone is going to go to a film festival, but everyone can open up their browser and watch that video, and you can get more eyes on it.
And it opens up the opportunity for so many other people.
Sure, exactly.
All kinds of work, all kinds of venues, reaching out in all kinds of places. Ironically, it ties a little bit to me with the whole nepotism thing. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
stay within this fixed way of seeing things.
Right.
Also, I agree with you though. I also disagree with that statement. It's a changing, shifting thing, and it's not necessarily a bad or good. It's just it's great in terms of opportunity, and it's different.
One of the things he was saying was it's going to take people out of the theater, and I'm like, I don't think that's true, because I think those are two different experiences. I think that with web, you generally expect it to be smaller in scale. You generally expect it to have certain limitations that you won't find with a big budget cinematic film for the theater. You can't kill the theater going experience, because that's an event for your family. You're not gonna have your family come and sit around your phone or your laptop,
Yeah,
right?
very
You
fair.
can go on a date or go with your family, go with your kids to the cinema, and that's an event that you guys can do together. You can't just do that at home with your cell phone. I don't think that's going away, and I think that fear is it needs to stop. You don't want to be the music industry when Napster came around. For those of you who are super young watching this, Napster came around when you couldn't download music. MP3s weren't really a thing yet the way they are now. It's taken for granted now, but there was a time when you had to buy the entire album, a CD. You had to buy the whole thing at the store. And then Napster came around and was like, fuck that, you can just download the music for free. And the music industry just like freaked out and didn't adapt to the times. And so now we've got iTunes, but a lot of the music industry kind of lost out on this change because they were so reluctant in holding on to the past. I think if anything, the web would enhance RANBIR Kapoor and all these actors. If not for web stuff, I wouldn't know who RANBIR Kapoor is. I wouldn't know who any of these actors are. And so it's reaching a broader audience now. One of them was saying how it revives some films that didn't really have an audience before, like maybe didn't do that well. So now on YouTube, you can actually purchase a rental directly. Like you see the trailer and you want to watch it, right away you can click on the rental. I'm like, that's the future right there. I wouldn't like...
Gotta get on board.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate on that
Go
at all.
with the flow.
I love RANBIR Kapoor's candor. I love that he's very honest, like about his flaws, that he's, you know, a drinker, and oftentimes he's not like, he doesn't have a lot on his mind. He gives zero fucks about people's opinions about him now. And I think that's the greatest place you can possibly be, is when people's opinions can't hurt you anymore, you are invincible.
And it's been a different journey for him, because most people coming into the industry, if they don't come from those families, movies, they're trying to get as much exposure in the beginning. You know what I mean? They're trying to get as much light, and for him, it's kind of the exact opposite process. He was sheltered and like kind of hidden away from the cameras, just like most of the kids are. And like when they're ready, they kind of like present themselves as their debut. He's kind of gone through his arcs, just like so many of them. But he's very frank, and it's funny how he was talking about how the lawyers say you can't say this, and he's like, well, I mean, he's just doing it. But this is post, of course, those events. It's very just, you know, just relaxed and no fancy outfits.
It was quite the opposite of what I was expecting, to be honest with you. But when I hear that RANBIR Kapoor is doing this podcast, I'm expecting him to show up in a suit, you know, and be very proper and formal, not with like the shaggy hair, unshaved, you know, a sweater that says like disarming. Like that's such a random outfit. Like I was not expecting that at all. That's like he's just like some regular dude,
seated position.
You know, he's got his foot under his leg. It's just like that. He's very, very, very relaxed, and I actually admire that. I think that's cool. He does have like a very nice watch. So
that's one little bling.
Yeah,
one little bling.
That's
but
great.
One thing is the when you asked me the bakchod. So I wasn't able to give you the full thing there. But so chod can be a very offensive term. But it's like,
I imagine so.
Yeah. So chod is like, you know, you can say, I'm not going to say the term, but ben chod is like, you know, sister something.
Sister fucker.
You're right, exactly. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So basically it's like.
Oh no!
Talking.
Like we have famous memes with Achara cussing. Like she goes chuttia, and everyone thinks it's so.
That's so cute.
Everyone thinks it's so cute, and she's like cussing.
I know, but it's coming from her, so it has a different delivery.
I think if you look, there's like memes that you can find. Someone created memes of Achara saying these words that you can find. Yeah.
So I'm assuming again, whatever I say, don't take it as I'm representing that this is my take on what these words are. So I could not saying I'm right or knowledgeable about any of these. But
she is saying she is the representative of all these words. The president, speaker, the official speaker, and decider of how these words are supposed to be said and used. Go ahead.
But basically benchod, so you know, sister fucker, as you said, and so it's saying buck, as in buck is not just talking, but it's like blabbering, like just going off. So the talk, like, you know, the blabber fucker. If you will.
But is bakchod a bad word at all?
I think they've created that word. If it exists, I'm very bad with my cuss terms in Hindi, but I know a limited few from my movies and from my languages. But I think it's something they just put together.
Okay, but chod itself.
Chod is like, you can use that for any like.
Okay, so that is a bad word.
Yes, that is.
Straight up.
So bakna is just another slang term for like just somebody blabs.
Because I was about to give myself a new nickname like Jaby bakchod or something, but like I don't want the F word in my.
But also blabbing bakchod.
Okay.
I don't know.
Or
Again,
Jaby.
I could, if I'm wrong, you could totally write or say what, but that was my interpretation of the title.
Jaby Buck or Buck Jaby.
Yeah.
Because I do talk a lot sometimes about random shit. Like I'll just go off on a rant about how it reminds me of my ex-girlfriends or something like that, and people will be like, "Why do you keep talking about your past relationships?" You know, so I'll just go off on like weird tangents here and there. That's what they do here. Like that's what I like about AIB is that like. Something will happen and they'll just go on this tangent here and this tangent there, and then eventually Tanmay will rein it back and he's like, okay, let's get back to some questions.
No, and I think that's why the people like it, because it's not this cookie cutter setup, like formal thing. It's very much how kids in India talk today in the cities. Like people wonder what India is like, and all things can come up, and you've been and you know, but the urbanites, I mean, I feel like they're sometimes even more Western than people here. This is the urban youth of India, and that's who they are, and it's just in that setting and presented in that way, and it makes it very relatable, and people like connected to it.
You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Please let us know in the comments how you felt about the AIB podcast interviews. I'm looking forward to the next ones with Nawazin Siddiqui and Irfan Khan. Check out Mayuri Bandari on the social media, and also please watch my short films. There's a link that should show up soon, a button of some kind with one of my short films. I think that you guys will enjoy it. I enjoyed making them. There's also links in the description below if you can't see the button there. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
Mayuri Bandari.
Peace out.